I will be discussing Chapter 7, Psychological Interventions with Football Teams, or Soccer Teams. In the introduction of this chapter, it spoke about how historically and traditional the sport of soccer is, how soccer, because of its concept of being a traditional sport, requires a lot of structural changes, and how coaches and players have been ignorant to the absence of sports psychology. How sports psychologists are becoming more and more important to the sport of soccer, but are asked to adapt to different aspects and changes of the sport. Those different aspects of the sport will be introduced and discussed in this presentation. Psychological peculiarities of football. Sports psychologists need to take into consideration the different varying stages of an athlete today to establish objectives accordingly. Athletes and team routines typical of practically all football teams are to be known, so psychologists know when to intervene. It's also important to know an individual's or team's routine, what is talked about in the changing room, who or what is influencing the team or individual, what makes a player's performance increase or decrease. Some demands players are asked from, inside or outside of forces are achieving optimal arousal level throughout the match, which means that the players should learn to perform in the best psychological conditions from the first minute of the game to the very last minute of the game. Self-control in adverse situations basically means to keep a straight mindset approach throughout the whole game with the different adverse situations that will happen during a game. Interaction with referees and rivals. It's difficult for athletes to sometimes keep emotions under control towards referees or opponents. So it's up to the player to keep his emotions under control. Pressure from the coaches. Numerous outside stressors are going to be brought up to a player that must be employed with psychological strategies to attain peak performance and well-being. The media. As a professional soccer athlete, the media seems to attract more towards soccer. The media can be both beneficial and damaging to a player, so it's very crucial that an athlete have psychological strategies to control its efforts. Basic recommendations for the psychological demands of football. Sports psychologists work various ways, depending on whether the intervention is directed towards elite professional teams or beginner grassroots teams. How much intervention and focus, dedication is put into a grassroots team depends on the team's objectives, which means, is a team wanting to start from scratch, or is it to train and create top-class footballers? Psychological interventions will differ according to the circumstances. Elite professional soccer teams. A psychologist works for a professional team are obviously going to be a lot more different. Athletes have already sufficient developed their performance facets throughout an array of phases. Coaches know what they're striving for when it comes to the team and its core values. The sports psychologist must adapt to the environment completely to fully understand the team, to know what interventions to use in the future. Keep athletes under control. Improve team unity if needed. Work with rookie athletes to become accustomed to the professional life. Psychological guidance with individuals involved in football. Coaches, players, physical trainers, and also parents. The coaches. Sports psychologists can provide a coach with strategies to apply with players to improve performance. Also, psychologists can assist coaches to gradually take control of the team through some learning suitable strategies to employ in different situations. Coaches are given two different interventions. One is a direct intervention to improve personal performance, and the other is indirect interventions. Assist coaches with strategies to use towards the team in different situations. Players. Sports psychologists helping players reach maximum potential performance. They can also meet one-on-one with individual players to go deeper into the player's feelings to increase personal psychological performance. Physical trainers. Just like coaches, physical trainers are given assistance to reach personal performance towards the team. Psychologists also give physical trainers tips to better improve the psychological aspects of training athletes to help them reach their full potential. Parents. Guidelines are given to parents to follow, to not be the parent on the sideline yelling to try to become a coach, or learning to motivate their child the right way and not in the wrong. And also to teach parents how to separate being a coach of a team and being a parent, on the other hand, to a child who plays for your team. A psychological intervention model for football teams. It is important for a sports psychologist to become familiar with the sport of soccer. It's also important to make his presence known to the coach and what the sports psychologist is there for. A proposed evaluation model to use when commencing work with a football team has three functions. Number 1, evaluation of club. Number 2, evaluation of the coach. And number 3, the evaluation of players. The club evaluation. Understanding the club structure, organization, history, and number of players and coaches is very crucial to a psychologist to know and understand. The coach's evaluation. Getting to know the coach, getting to know the staff to see where their point of view is for the team. At the same time, introducing the coaches of the type of psychological work they will be experiencing along the way. The player's evaluation. Players are evaluated through questionnaires to measure various psychological variables, whether it be in training or during matches. Sports psychologists also use observations, game clips, and one-on-one interventions to know the players on a personal level. In my conclusions, in the sport of soccer, many different circumstances will arise, and it is up to the sports psychologist to adapt and adjust to those circumstances in order for the psychologist to fully understand the team, the individuals, and the organization in itself. Also, basic elements sports psychologists should take into account when approaching the soccer environment has been discussed. Also, the different aspects of coaches or athletes' environment with the game of soccer are dealt with in this presentation. References: some of the journal articles I used for this presentation to fully understand what it meant to be a sports psychologist. Thank you.